on Podcast Them Down. Is Cask beer as stupid as I think it is?
Cast them down.
That's right, I did the intro and the short intro music because we have to get right to this because this is probably a new segment series on Podcast Them Down, Metal Beer. All right, and I did not just steal this idea from Decibel. So
certainly.
All right, so I'm using Dissection Storm of the Light's Bane as a bookmark because I just happened to find it. It's been missing for a while. It was just,
dude, congratulations.
It was not under D where it should have been. It was under F next to my Fate's Warning. So
fucking awesome.
So every month Decibel has an article about beer. All right? And this is what is this? The November issue 2023. And they wrote about Cask beer this time, okay? And it just sounds like the biggest pain in the ass, and with all the with all the caveats. It sounds like I never want to try this ever. Now, that being said, I have tried it, and I was in the UK with you, Dave, when we had it. And I think I had one and I was done with it. Yes, what?
Are we going to discuss Firkins in addition to Cask Ale, or are we sticking to like
we're gonna have to get there. So so I don't know. Okay. So first of all, what is Cask Ale? Who wants to answer that for me? Mark or Dave?
I'm just going to mention Canberra for all of you Podcast Them Downers in the know. But Mark, what's Cask Ale?
Well, I believe it's ale in a cask.
Yes.
Correct. More specifically, ale in a wooden barrel, as it would have been served in ye olden days. Back before we had kegs and CO2 bottles and controlled fermentation and stuff. And a lot of breweries still make cask ales to kind of capture that old ale style. And as Tim said, there are a ton of downsides and caveats, like the fact that it's not CO2 backfilled, so you're pumping oxygen into your cask to serve your cask beer, which means that you gotta go through the cask pretty quickly, or else you're gonna oxidize half a cask full of beer.
There you go. You've hit the nail on the head. This is okay. So what Cask Ale or cask beer is? There's two fermentations. So the first fermentation, you let out all the gas, and it turns the sugar into alcohol. Yes, correct. I'm looking for nods or corrections. Correct,
yes.
Yes. All right.
The alcohol is being created by the yeast eating the sugar, pooping out booze
and CO2.
Well, they're burping out the CO2.
So then the second fermentation, in the case of cask ale, is you dump it into the cask, you dump more yeast in there, and they create the bubbles. And this is why it creates the carbonation. But a lot of mass-produced beers don't do the secondary fermentation. They just pump CO2 into it. Now, according to this. All right, this article was by Courtney Eisman in Decibel magazine. All right, so
there's a lot of almost right things there.
Yeah, so you can also do a secondary fermentation, filter out the yeast, and bottle it. So that's the other way. But then when it's in a keg, you pump CO2 into it to push the beer out. Yes. Or nitrogen, I guess.
But also to change the CO2 volume in your beer.
You can also use helium.
Fizzy lifting drinks.
You can use helium, more commonly nitrogen, less commonly hydrogen.
Bingo. That's really more of a Japanese thing, I've heard.
Okay.
Hydrogenated beer so that you can light your burps.
That's fucking metal.
I'm not kidding. I think actually, I swear that I'm believe I've read this somewhere.
When you say swear, actually, do you mean like promise, or do you mean like cuss?
Curse.
Oh, I already cussed.
Look, yeah, because I'm not gonna fucking.
I'm pretty sure it was
censor it.
I'm pretty sure it was helium beers, right? Because I remember hearing that, you know, your voice would change when you drink your beer and you burp.
Oh, you should get what is it? Tetrafluoride or whatever that makes your voice deep.
That's just nitrous. Different kind of nitrous for all you heady beers for fans out there.
Is that a fish thing?
I want to give a quick shout out to the Heady Beers for Fans guys. When I was in Syracuse on summer tour this year, I was drinking a lot beer, and it was a hot day, and the lot beer was not staying sufficiently cool for me to enjoy it in the very long merchandise line. And the Heady Beers for Fans guys, not to cross promote, gave me this very sweet little koozie to keep my Heady Vermont IPA super cold. Which is like the furthest possible thing from a cask ale, right, Mark?
That is pretty far away from cask ale. If you're gonna flex Heady Topper on me, though, I'm gonna go get some Treehouse out of my fridge.
I'm not. I didn't say it was a Heady Topper Vermont ale. I just said it was Heady, brah.
Okay.
I think it actually was. Was that the day I got Julius? It might have been. It was a glorious summer because they trucked them down. Man.
Were you? Were you like at the fairgrounds?
We were on the poop lake. The lake with all the toxic sludge in it at the Lakeview Amphitheater.
That's Lake Onondaga.
Across from the county fair. Onondaga. Yes.
Yeah, the state fairgrounds are on the southern shore of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
the amphitheater is, I guess, adjacent to that. And man, great show, fantastic weather, beautiful sunset, good beer. I didn't go anywhere close to the water, so I feel like I'm no worse off than I was when I got there. I feel like I've taken us kind of far afield from cask ale.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. So, okay. So where was I? So now to pump it out, to pump beer out of a keg, there's CO2 involved, right? To pump it out of a cask, which is often unrefrigerated as well. I don't know if it's always unrefrigerated. But you have to use
why you'd refrigerate it.
You have to use a hand pump, which, as you mentioned, Mark, sucks in oxygen, which oxidizes your beer. So if you take a long time to drink your cask, your beer has gone crappy. It's gone stale and old.
Skunkified.
Exactly.
Correct. The hand pumps are also, or can be, a significant amount of effort.
This is true. Like, and when you hear about like thus and such beer properly hand poured, like a hand pulled Guinness or something like that, like it is an effort to work a hand tap. Like if you've ever pumped a keg in college, it's that same action, although it's, mechanized and somewhat smoother. And the other way, I guess there's no gravity-driven cask ales, are there?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, then you just have to have it semi-open on the top.
Yeah, right. Well, I think I think you got to keep it in the basement.
Yes,
because that's where it's going to be.
So you're also fighting gravity. Yeah. Right. We used to. So I worked for a beer and wine store that had a bar inside of it, Metalmation. And this meant that we were able to not only sell beer and wine to go, but to drink on premise. And we would frequently have collaborations with breweries that would bring a portion of their, not necessarily cask ale, in a small keg, about the size of a pony keg, but differently shaped, called a firkin. And these we literally would just put on the bar, have open, and then just open the tap and let it gravity feed, because we would kill it by the end of the night. And if not,
sounds like that's a filtered beer, right? Because if the tap's in the bottom, you got all the all the yeast is not in there anymore. Correct?
Well, so here's with modern breweries, they would cold crash before they packed the firkin or filled the firkin, so that the yeast was not suspended in the beer and was rather at the bottom of the filling tank. So it was usually it was either a cloudy beer or it was reasonably clean and clear. But the other thing about firkins is they're frequently going to be dry hopped or have some other aromatic, botanical or whatever put inside the vessel with the beer so that the beer can take on that flavor while it's in there, and it'll like be poured through the hops or the orange peel or the cocoa nibs or whatever it is as it comes out.
So one of the reasons they do that, though, is a lot of the flavor and body and mouthfeel of the beer you drink from a keg or a can or a bottle or whatever is coming from the like sharp acidity of the CO2 and the bubbles of the CO2. So beer in a cask or a firkin even is going to be a lot like flatter and a little bit warmer. So that's why they'll often add like dry hop additions or something to kind of try to beef it up a little bit more.
Liven it, yeah. Yeah, and that's an interesting point. That's one of the things about cask ale in the UK that often puts off many North American, or let's be frank, American drinkers, is that it is a warmer temperature. It's not quite as sharp and bright as we're used to. And again, the carbonation, as Mark says, adds a lot to that. And British real ale, as it's called in the UK, is certainly both undercarbonated by American concepts and undertemp. Overtemp?
To answer some of your questions, here's a part of the article. Bradley Gillett, owner of one of America's most renowned cask-focused breweries, Seneca Lake Brewing, and I wonder if that's the one in New York State, says, quote, "There is a large culture around cask ale here in the U.S." Sure. More so than people think. It's grown in the past 10 years, albeit slowly, with more and more breweries doing things like Firkin Fridays, or one of the casks on the end of the bar. So they're not even pumping it. It's just on the end of the bar. Yeah.
So Heavy Seas, right up the road from Dave and I, often has cask offerings. And they have done both Firkins and they have like the full hand pump station cask draws. And they often do either like barrel-aged versions of a lot of their beers or just regular versions, but with dry hop additions or other flavoring additions. And they're definitely big into that.
Do they have a beer engine? Or are they pulling it by hand?
They have a beer engine, yeah.
Okay, so here's my first recommendation to make cask ale more awesome. That beer engine, which pumps it out, needs to be a lawnmower pull start. Now you're talking.
All right.
All right, I got.
Can't we just do what we can do? What Mark has done instead of having a beer engine. Like for those of you who don't go to Mark's house, his kegerator has a violin fiddlehead. I'm sorry, I know there's a real music.
It's the neck, and the scroll on the fingerboard.
The neck and the scroll. As a tap handle.
I like that.
Yeah, we could just put a giant hammer of war as our beer engine grasping handle. Metal it up real quick.
So back to this article, I got 2 more paragraphs to read you that just completely turned me off of the idea of ever going out and buying cask beer at a bar. All right. Cask programs require staff education and vigilance to ensure beer isn't served stale or oxidized, and the number of bars that couldn't sell through their cask beer fast enough and serve bad beer helped contribute to a fade out of cask's presence a decade ago. Okay, but it's been growing for 10 years? Also catalyzed by hazy IPAs and fruited sours, but with people seeking out classic styles now, breweries have stepped up to enhance these with a bit more razzle-dazzle in the tap room. Side pull taps for lagers, for example, and now cask engines. Then later in the article it says, if you're thirsty for a cask beer now, make sure you're getting beer that is at its best. Especially if you're in a bar, Leonard and Chaporian recommend asking some basic questions of the bartender, like, how long has the cask been on? A brush up on cask beer, blah, 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 blah. It's dispensed by being pumped out of the thing, blah, blah, blah. There's no carbon dioxide pushing the beer out, so air enters the cask as the beer is dispensed, which oxidizes the beer. That's why after about 3 days, the beer will begin tasting off. Hang on, it gets worse. CAMRA, C-A-M-R-A, the UK's campaign for real ale, we'll get to that in a second, condemns it as non-traditional but a cask breather, which allows sterile gas to replace beer instead of oxygen, helps venues keep their beer in better condition a bit longer. So you stroll up to a crowded bar. Dave, what's the last bar you and I went to?
Last bar we went to was
2 bars ago. 2 bars ago, because we went to two
bars ago.
We went to 2 that night. The first one.
What city were we in?
We were in Columbia, Maryland.
Did we go? Oh, that's right. We went to Black Flag and then to Cushwa.
Yes. So we went to Black Flag, and that bartender was busy as shit. All right, it was packed. So well, you know, it was hard to get a beer. And we, hey, how long has your cask been on? What do you want? What do you want? You want the cask beer? No. How long has it been on? Is it oxidized? Do you pump the sterile air in? You know, that's not traditional.
Hang on. Hold on.
Well, so hang on.
Now,
did we tell you about what was happening that night?
Was it hacker trivia?
It was hacker trivia.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, that's a point for you. I forgot. It's been so long. I forgot how my soundboard works. Let's see if this is it.
Oh my god! I've never felt stupider. I've never felt like I could speak English and yet not speak English.
Yeah, but you could have written your name down and gotten 2 free beers.
If it makes you feel better, Dave.
Now you tell me.
If it makes it is one of them Cask? How long has the Cask been on?
I think it was the Cask Ale Glum.
If it makes you feel better, I only understood most of each question, but not an entire question.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
I am not a personal
feeling. It's just a divergence in education. That's all.
So so you got to sell through the cask. I was gonna say if we went to Cushwa, see, we showed up there like right before last call, and they were happy as pigs and shit to see us.
Because it was a Tuesday night and there was nothing going on.
It was a Tuesday night. Now we could have talked their ear off about about the gas contents of the of the cask, but they didn't have.
Did you know that cask breather is an insult akin to mouth breather in the camera circles of the serious pub goers of the UK? You know, I was very nearly a card-carrying camera member despite being like a resident of the United States my entire life.
Okay.
Back when I was working for that nano brewery in Montgomery County, we were very into the traditional styles.
I'll be right back. I gotta grab a beer.
Yeah.
I came prepared with my canned beer. All right. So that's the thing.
Speaking of Black Flag, here's the new Black Flag. It's called No Quarter. For those of you who are fans of pirate metal, it's got a cutlass and a skull.
Also, if you're fans of pirate metal, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Hey,
it stopped being good. It stopped being good when Ailstorm did a song about traveling through time and fighting Vikings. That's when that is the second pirate metal. Stop being good. Oh, that looks awesome.
I was just simply disillusioned by the Running Wild farewell tour that was then followed up by the Running Wild tour after the farewell tour. 2 years later.
Another strike against.
I was only gone for 20 seconds. What are you talking about?
We're talking about pirate metal because I'm drinking the new Black Flag, No Quarter.
Well, that looks great. I'm not down on Black Flag. No. I am drinking a mass-produced Narragansett, and I was just recently in Rhode Island. So.
Yeah, so this is thrash metal by Adroit Duty, of course.
Nice.
And it's a Hellas lager, which we can, whenever you want, segue back into your other comment about breweries are going back to traditional real styles. Because we can talk about that.
Okay, this is great. This is perfect. So you mentioned CAMRA. You said traditional real styles. So CAMRA is the campaign for real ale. Real ale is what they sometimes call cask beer or bottle conditioned beer and that is when the secondary fermentation happens in the vessel, okay? And they leave the yeast in and don't filter it. Okay, but what I like about this is so incredibly metal, all right, in a bad way. They call it real ale, like it's true metal.
True mayhem.
True ale, right? Okay, and they say this is the implication is this is the only way to do it. Death to false ale. That is the implication, right? You don't filter it. You put it in a cask. You don't add carbon dioxide. You put air in it. You know, you let the shit go bad after 3 days.
Yeah, if you
because if you didn't drink it in 3 days, you're a fucking wuss.
You don't deserve it.
Exactly. We got to do a death to false ale homebrew.
Death to false ale. ISENMOR does. I think
that'd be a good ISENMOR shirt, actually. And we can just put a picture of this on.
I'm trying to think what Manowar song we can rework the lyrics so that we can make it about false ale.
So interestingly, I don't know which nano brewery you were talking about, David, but I have been to the Chesapeake Real Ale Brewery.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A little bit south of here, which prides itself on having like 20 plus cask engines.
Wow.
Every time I have been there, they have only had 0 or 1 beers on cask, despite having 20 cask engines behind the bar.
I hope they hook them all up.
And do they advertise having cask ale or having cask engines?
I'm picturing Polestar lawnmower.
It's Chesapeake Real Ale Brewery. Like they're all about making those traditional camera styles, but they also, I believe, have accepted the reality that they can't have 20 beers on cask and stay solvent.
No. I mean, not unless they like dumping beer.
Exactly.
And that doesn't have anything to do with their solvency unless they're dumping it on themselves.
Well, yeah. So I guess to wrap it up more or less, that was my whole point. It sounded promising, but then they talk about you have to accost the bartender. They have to know what they're doing. You know, that's too much work. For how long have you been working here? Have you been trained in cask? That's too much. Can I just? It's bad enough when there are so many choices. You know, I gotta read
through 100 beers.
Yeah, you gotta read through a bajillion beers. And now you know the type of place I go to.
Look, here's
just ask for the hazy IPA. When they say which one, just go, I don't care.
Right. The one with the dumbest name. There's a good strategy. If you order a hazy IPA, you don't need to know if they've been trained in how to pour an IPA, because you do this. That's how you pour an IPA. You don't have to turn the crank and listen to someone complaining that the hand pump is the only traditional way to do it, and this and that. You know, that's my point.
I'm going to make a counterpoint. And I don't think that there is a likelihood that most people in the United States are going to have cask ale as their normal beer.
That's not what this article says. It's probably like growing and being more popular, just the same way cassettes are. You know, it's exploded in the last 5 years because they sold 20 instead of 0. You know,
bingo. No, that's what I'm saying. Like a 50% year-over-year increase of 2 people is amazing growth.
You still see casks at breweries on a lot of weekends, right? They'll typically do it Thursday or Friday, but yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. My point is that Mark, you're a good example. You're a good example of this. Like, if you want cask ale, you're going to take the time to seek out a brewery that knows what they're doing, that you trust to hold it correctly, who are going to keep it at temperature when it's not being poured to minimize all of the oxidation and weirdness effects. It's not what you're going to see at Seamus's Irish Pub, serving fried pickles and Jameson shots. Though maybe that's where
not the Irish Pub in America.
That's what I mean. That's where we are.
I looked it up. Seneca Lake Brewing is on Seneca Lake, one of the Finger Lakes in New York State, kind of near Auburn, New York, which is where Manowar is from. So it all comes back to Manowar. They're actually closer to, what lake is that? I lost my mouse. They're actually closer to Owasco Lake. So,
oh my!
If you're on Owasco Lake on the northern part, look out for Joey DeMaio. Ask him his opinion of Cask Ale, the only true ale.
We hope all other beers get cancer.
Jesus, that's too intense for a Manowar.
I'm sorry, no, that's a literal Joey DeMaio quote.
What did he say that about?
Oh, it was on like Hell on Earth 1 or 2. It stuck with me all these years later. He was talking about people who like were trying to keep Manowar from playing metal.
Who are these enemies of metal? Like, who are they?
You know, the teacher, the policeman.
No, that's Twisted Sister's enemies. That's why they always rock them through the wall, you know?
Yeah, right. Well, is he? No, well, I mean, Eric Adams punches his teacher out, and now the guy's chill. So I guess like he's technically the metal of enemy of metal.
And I brought this up before. I'm going to bring it up again. Manowar had a song about Nam on their first album, about fighting in Vietnam and coming back. Like, it was very Rambo, right?
Yeah.
You know,
not introspective.
Basically, I fought in Nam, and now I get disrespected, you know, that kind of thing. But they've spent the rest of their career since then trying to pretend that they're in their late 30s. Right, but it doesn't work when you can point to the first album and say this song's about Nam.
God damn it, Mark! Can I tell you also? When I go to work, that song gets stuck in my head. Like I'll go by. Like it
was so good.
I saw that they were surfing the lac table, and I was just like, oh my god!
It was, but I think they sold it.
I'm so glad I didn't
see the table. I'm angry about this. I'm legitimately. Oh my god!
Yeah, because I saw someone carry it over to the VIP like sit down section at Soundstage.
That's the dumbest. They could make so much fucking money.
That table made it all the way to the back behind the sound guy.
Okay, all right.
That table is $10 a unit. Do you have any idea how much merch money they could make if they just bought them and signed them?
I have to remind you that we are doing a podcast, and people don't know what you're talking about.
It's Nanowar of Steel and their bizarre IKEA fetish. Are they even Swedish?
No, I think they're Italian. Yeah.
What the fuck? Well, at least they're European, I guess. I don't know.
And so they opened they opened for Dragonforce, right?
They
opened for Dragonforce
at Baltimore Soundstage. We didn't do an episode about it because I would have just been angry because that whole show is just like everything I hate about metal. Have they changed keyboard? Has Dragonforce changed keyboardists? Because one time
Dragonforce does not have a keyboardist now.
Okay, because when I saw them, I have a keyboard right here. So if you'll allow me, he would hold a chord and then flail around like a fucking moron, and it drove me insane.
What's he supposed to do? Just standing?
He should. It's very hard to rock out with a keyboard. Maybe you should try to look intense, like the Camelot keyboard.
Like it's the hardest keys you've ever held down in your life. Like you just need to fucking squeeze a shit.
Not jump around flailing like an idiot while holding a chord. You know, I'm very glad to hear that they got rid of the keyboardist.
Well, yeah.
I was like, the Children of Bodom approach was really good, which is, you know, just like look bored while ripping the most incredible scales anyone's ever heard.
Yes, and then kiss Alexei when it comes over to you. 2006.
R.I.P. Those boys were so wild.
So I did see Dragonforce as I think the first metal show I ever went to. In 2008.
I'm so old. I'm so
in
old.
2008, and that was featuring the original band, and that was when they were kind of
Ultra Beatdown years, right?
No, that was before that.
Ultra Beatdown, Inhuman Rampage.
Yeah, that was Inhuman Rampage.
That was 2006.
Dave, when kids say bad, they mean good.
So I remember I learned that at IU.
So that they were pretty sloppy, and they tried to get the crowd to sing a whole verse off of like off of Not Through the Fire and the Flames.
Right.
Which obviously didn't work out.
Or overestimated.
And then they got grumpy at us and said the people in Russia were able to sing the whole thing. Why couldn't you do it?
Wow.
I'd be like, fuck
but
you,
whatever. So I had fun there. But when I saw them recently, they were absolutely phenomenal.
Oh,
like they definitely did turn it around like about 10 years ago or something, decided to actually take it seriously.
Seriously.
Man, we're really segueing now. They had a third guitarist who, for like the first 3 songs, was just standing in the back playing rhythm guitars and doing backing vocals. Because I don't think they backtracked any vocals. Everyone but the drummer sang on like the choruses and stuff, which is pretty cool. Cool. But they had a third guitarist who was playing the rhythm guitar when Sam and Herman were soloing, which when I had seen them previously, they didn't have that rhythm guitar track there. They didn't have a backing track. They just had nothing. So it was kind of empty. Yeah. And then like they get their backing guitarist to come up and he rips one of Sam's solos and then they're like, yeah, we picked up this guy who was doing TikTok covers of Dragonforce songs, and we just invited him to do this tour with us. Didn't they? This dude looked like he was having the time of his life on stage, like a fucking puppy dog who just got adopted.
Didn't they find a temporary basis that way? And it turns out that guy was a piece of shit. So Stevie T. That's who.
I don't think. Well, I don't. Well, I think he turned out to be a piece of shit afterwards. He almost toured with them, and then it was like an anxiety thing. I guess he
flaked out, and then it was exposed that he was a piece of shit. Yeah, that's what it was.
And it could have been Dave McIntosh on drums, but it's not. That's my biggest regret about Dragonforce, is not playing with Dave McIntosh, the greatest drummer that England has ever put forth for heavy metal.
Even better than Nick Barker?
Yes. I say that. Dave McIntosh played with Balsagoth.
Yes, but Nick Barker played with Dimmu Borgir when they were good.
Yeah, and Propane.
Oh yeah, let's.
Well, you would have hated Dragonforce's set, but
oh, thank you. I'm glad. Actually, I'm going to look it up. We're like way off the topic, but it's fine.
Well, while you look it up, so like I'm saying, or like I said earlier, I'm drinking a Hell's Lager by Adroit Theory, right? Adroit Theory.
Wait. I'm sorry. Before we get back to beer. Nanowar of Steel and the Lack Table. Like, that's what people are waiting to hear explained.
True. So, the Nanowar of Steel does cover songs in the style of the bands that they're covering. So, like, they have albums where they do, like, a song in style like Sabaton and then Manowar and then Powerwolf, XYZ, like, all through all the different metal genres, really. So they did a song called Valhallelujah, which is kind of a gospel power Viking metal mix, and it's basically boils down to Odin has given up being a god of war, and now he's the god of furniture and the patron saint of IKEA, and the IKEA catalog is the new Bible.
Right, and I guess to tie it all together, I've spent 13 years working for IKEA, so it's difficult for me to take much joy in my office being presented to me as entertainment.
Now you know how
it's
I
a phenomenal
feel
music
at
video.
Sabaton concerts. So
it's an absurd music video because in the music video, go watch it on YouTube. Give them another view, but it's like fucking IKEA furniture everything.
I found Dragonforce's set, and I will. Okay, I'm going to say nice things about them if you can believe. If you can believe it.
Let's hear it.
I agree.
They have a good cross section of their career, which is nice. They did 2 songs from Sonic Firestorm and Valley of the Damned and did Human Rampage.
Yes, that was awesome.
They did Cry Thunder, which was probably the newest song.
Yes.
I know. That's a good song.
Yes.
That's when I stopped listening. Right.
What is that album called?
The Power Within, I believe.
Power Cosmic. No, that's Balsagoth.
The Power Within.
What is that album?
They sandwiched
album is perfect.
The Valley of the Damned songs around the new disco metal song.
Yeah, so I'm seeing...
Which was like a slap in the face to me.
They closed the main set with Valley of the Damned, but before the song. But before that, they played Doomsday Party, which sounds like a terrible song. So they did do Fury of the Storm. They did...
nice.
They did Revolution Death Squad. They did Through the Fire and Flame. Of course they did. They did a Taylor Swift and a Celine Dion cover.
What songs?
Wildest
My
Dreams
Heart Will Go On,
and My Heart Will Go On, respectively. So,
okay,
actually, both of those were pretty good. And I think they're doing like a whole Americana cover album.
I don't like cover albums. I say right before we release a cover album for Burning Shadows.
That's only slightly different.
It is different, and maybe we'll do an episode about it. But we'll see. Maybe. So anyway, I would be only slightly annoyed with this set, but I'd probably be in a bad mood after seeing Manowar of Steel.
You would have been very annoyed by Doomsday Party. And also, the way they shuffled the set list, it was like really good power metal song, new song, where like the verse riffing isn't there. The power, like the power metal energy isn't there. It's just connecting the solos together. And when they played it, the songs in that order, you could really notice the difference.
Yeah, it highlighted it
highlighted how good Valley of the Damned is as a song.
That song was just God, it sounded so bad and so amateurish on the recording. Like, I don't mean to sound so shitty about it. Like, the leap in production value between their second and third albums is just gargantuan. Because I, unlike many Dragonforce fans, learned about them because, like, I downloaded their shit on Kazaa.
Hey!
Instead of...
You can't say
I stole
that. You can't admit to that.
It was 35 years ago, the statute of limitations.
I know, right? It wasn't from Guitar Hero.
The first
but I listened to the Valley of the Damned and so many times when I was a freshman in college.
It's a great album.
Back then, you could release albums that had that production.
The first Opeth song I heard, I had to leave the dial-up internet connected overnight to download from Audio Galaxy.
That's because Opeth can't edit a song down to a reasonable length.
Well, okay, fair. It was like 13 minutes. Yeah. So, but I have bought every album up to 2008 at least once.
By Dragonforce?
Yeah. No, by Opeth.
Oh, yeah.
When did Power Within come out? Because that's when I stopped by Dragonforce.
Like 2012?
Really? That recently? Okay.
2010, 2011. Okay. I remember listening to it being how we can bring it back.
Oh, shut up. Sometimes I still think it's 2009, so.
Tim, do you ever have like this weird feeling like when you go into a record store and you're flipping through the CDs and you realize that you've accidentally stepped backwards in time? So whenever but years ago when CD stores were still a thing,
actually
I would like
you just reminded me.
Things.
Yeah, keep talking.
And I would be looking at like the release dates of albums and I'd see like 2004, 2005 and be like, oh, the new album by so-and-so. And then I'd see 4 more albums like 2007, 2010. I'm perennially stuck in the first year that I started listening to metal. Like, and anything after 2003 is new.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you're not that wrong. So I mentioned earlier I was in Rhode Island. You know what's in Warwick, Rhode Island?
No.
Newberry Comics.
Ooh, nice.
All right. Which is a wicked good time. All right. And they have CDs still. I'm happy to report.
Nice. Okay, so you do know what I'm talking about.
They still have a metal section. It's the first time I've been in a CD store, probably in 2023, and it happened in late November. And that's a
lie.
Is it? It's probably
we went to that
Cafe 611.
Yeah.
That's right. We did go to a store. You're right. I don't like having you on because you called me out on my lies. But I didn't buy anything in Frederick, Maryland. I did buy something. I dug through the CDs and I totally forgot about it until now. They had a Savage Messiah used CD, and used CDs cost $12 now. So
what?
Yeah.
Holy fucking Blankenstein.
But yeah, they had some decent stuff, just nothing I wanted other than Savage Messiah. This is the new album. I hope it's good. If it's not, I'm gonna go there and make them drink old cask ale because they're British.
Go and leave a negative comment on Newberry Comics website.
It wasn't Newberry Comics' fault if the CD is old. Bad.
In 2008, we were at the Providence, Rhode Island Mall to see a movie on a Tuesday night because they did 3D IMAX tickets for $6 on $6 movie night. So we went there for that. Yeah, it would have been like $30 in Boston. But we're browsing the Newberry Comics in the mall there, and that's where I bought for $5 the Dream Theater Systematic Chaos 2 LP for $5. I didn't have a record player at the time. No, the 2 LP.
Oh, LP. Okay.
Yeah.
$5.
A $5 record, man. Jeez. That's 2008 for you, isn't it? No one's gonna listen to this. Why'd we buy it?
I didn't have a record player for like 4 more years, but
yeah,
like according to Discogs, that's one of my most valuable records now.
Yeah,
I think
which is weird because it's the second worst album of that decade by Dream Theater.
How much is that going for?
No, it's good. It's just all the others are better. That's all I'm trying to say. How much is it going for?
Yeah, that's the question.
It was in like the low hundreds or something. Not like
Jesus fuck.
I think my most valuable record is my single of Still Day Beneath the Sun with the B-side Patterns in the Ivy Part 2.
I have a first pressing of Master of Puppets. So I assume that's my highest value. I should get on Discogs and find out.
Oh yeah,
I like Discogs great because I like pressing the shuffle button to decide which LP to play.
That's smart.
Really get that digital bit back into my analog listening experience.
For real, like how can we decide without the computer?
Didn't sound like ones and zeros enough. So
exactly.
I like looking at my net worth in albums and knowing that it's a meaningless metric because I'm never selling any of them.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That figure assumes you're going to sell them.
So, right.
Well, and that someone's going to buy them.
Also, someone would buy it. Right. Like,
I'll give you $5 for it. Actually, Mark, I'll give you $5 for your Systematic Chaos.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You're going to break even. It's going to be great. Okay, so I think we should end this episode with Mark finally getting to his Hellas Lager thing.
Right.
So we can get out of here.
Perfect. So yes, the article is correct anecdotally, at least for me, in that a lot of breweries have been making traditional styles again. But one of the reasons probably is that they're cheaper, right? Hops and fresh hops are expensive, and if you're dumping a ton of hops into an IPA, then it costs a lot of money. But a lot of breweries are trying to differentiate themselves, and it's a lot harder to make a good crisp like lager or Helles or like a dark ale or something, because there's less to hide behind. So like a Drake Theory and like even Black Flag and stuff, a lot of those breweries who are really good at making like big stouts, imperial stouts, dessert stouts, and like super hopped hazy IPAs have really started nailing down the consistency of their like lager and ale game. And they're doing like Czech dark lagers, which is a great style. They're like, you know, barrel aging lagers, doing pilsners.
Yeah, and
like
that's the other
and
thing.
saisons, and it's nice because like it's a lot easier to even sit down and drink a 16-ounce can of like a 4 to 6% lager than to look at a fridge that's full of 8 to 12% IPAs and stouts that are 16 ounces and be like, all right, which one beer do I want?
Very true. And I like your point about the barrel aging of the lagers, because that does kind of bring the possibility of modern innovation and like stylistic stretching, if you will, to those classic styles where you can have a very traditional lager that you maybe barrel age in like a Chardonnay barrel or something. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Oh, and then, you know, you got like Elder Pine out there doing a ton of like photo age stuff and stuff. Absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I've never been a huge fan of IPAs, but I appreciate them more over the last few years. However, yeah, I'm tired of IPAs. Like, I assume if you're a small brewery, you're going to have IPAs and they're going to be difficult, you know?
Well, so one of the things that like hazies and fresh hopping IPAs did recently is like 10 years ago, IPAs were traditional India Pale Ale and like hops as a preservative, super piney, very bitter, definitely an acquired taste. Now people have really gotten into like we can fresh hop, we can get aroma hops, and we can get all of the good flavors from the hops without adding a ton of bitterness. And that's made it a lot more accessible to a lot of people. And there's a lot of art in that, which I think is really cool. But
and
like,
also,
you're also right.
Hops have changed it dramatically in the last 10 years. The amount of like, I hesitate to say bioengineering, but like botanical chemistry that's going on with creating new experimental hop varietals that have different aromatic compounds that can be used in ways that we simply didn't have access to when Sierra Nevada was like defining what the IPA is for America.
Yep.
That too is like a huge influence on how that style has changed so much between the West Coast piney, bitter IPA that most American drinkers first associate with an IPA to what it is now with, like the hazies and the very fruit forward and aromatic.
Well, and the first Americanization of IPA was uber bitter, uber alcohol. And then we got like Arrogant Bastard and stuff. Like, you know, it's technically an American strong ale. It's not really an IPA, but what was it? Palette Wrecker by Three Floyds
Green
or something?
Flash.
Green Flash, yeah. Like it was just American. We're gonna amp everything to the extreme. It's gonna be a hot bomb.
And like with a name like Palette Wrecker, they owned it. Like that was the idea. Is like have one of these, and you might as well drink these the rest of the night because you're not going to taste shit besides this.
Right. But you know, now we've started Americanizing things by amping up the sweetness, amping up the flavor. Jamming.
That might have to be the next episode. That those dessert beers that I think are disgusting.
And so, okay, look, we're doing another metal beer thing. Yeah, I was about to say I need to bring the cellar.
If you're gonna pour me a thick beer that gives me cavities, then I think it'll be a good episode.
So I have a lot of different styles of stouts right now. Because I did recently go to Treehouse.
I'm not talking about stouts.
Oh, I know, but like when I say stout, I'm saying a 12 to 14% imperial dessert stout.
Yeah,
and I have some that taste like chocolate syrup, and I have some that taste like beer.
Did you say imperial lizard or imperial wizard?
No,
I need to know if I need to edit this out.
Imperial dessert.
Oh, okay.
I said imperial dessert.
I heard lizard or wizard.
I am the grand dessert of the imperial stout beer. Worship me.
Okay, well, We'll do a future episode on that.
We'll do a big stout.
I don't love syrup stouts.
I've got years of Bourbon County that I need to drink with someone.
If you want to drink Bourbon County with Dave, right?
Here's his home address.
We should
show up anytime.
We should just make a super flight, and we'll just go through like a flight of 21 ounce tasters.
Yeah. Oh yes, that sounds great.
I feel like I'm gonna have to be a contrarian on that episode, whether I like it or not.
You need a beer
education. The best part. The episode's going to get twice as funny by the time it's over, and it'll be on a logarithmic scale.
A logarithmic scale.
I mean, whatever that means. Yeah, logarithmic. I'm not talking exponential. I mean, log 3.
No, logger.
All right. Well, Metal Nation,
yes.
You heard it here. They're going to pump me full of false beers because we know the only real beer is real ale, which goes bad if you don't drink gallons of it in 3 days. So until next time, keep your casks true and your beer truer. The end.
Cast them down.
A lot of sustain on that.